We are live. All right, boys. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Will. How are you boys doing, huh?
Right.
Good. Yeah. Just back from a 10-day travel stretch from LA to New York to Paris, back home with a 5-hour delay. Thank you, American Airlines.
Love it. Gotta
Yeah.
love American Airlines. Hashtag no good.
Okay, what's going on with the airlines is really scary now.
I know with the air traffic control, controller, lack of resources and weather this time of year, it's just it's a perfect storm of just confusion and regret.
So at one point,
Sounds like my life.
At one point, New York only had 3 air traffic controllers there.
Yeah, so like my advice to our viewers and listeners is do not book any flights into or out of Newark.
Well, that has nothing to do with the air traffic controllers. That's just a general statement. New York is a terrible city and the airport's nice, but it is just terrible. There is absolutely no reason. If you can avoid Newark at any expense, do it.
Yeah.
I once spent a night there because of a missed flight, and it was the worst week of my life. All right. Anyway, good morning, boys. Good afternoon to good evening, good night to our global viewership. This is the Moor Insights Strategy Data Center Podcast. We have Paul Smith-Goodson, Will Townsend, and Matt Kimball, and we are here to talk all things data center. We try to inject some humor and fun into what we talk about, but sometimes you can't help nerds, and nerdy topics. But it's interesting. Before we get going, we on this episode number 44. Want to just throw out the typical disclaimers. First is don't take anything we say as investment advice. If you do, shame on you, and we will think very lowly of you. So don't do that. And take what we say with a grain of salt. These are our opinions, purely opinions on certain things that are happening in the marketplace, and just kind of take what we say with a grain of salt. And if you have feedback, we'd love to hear it, either through notes, through comments, through feedback on our YouTube channel, or otherwise. So, as I said, episode 44, we have a lot going on. We're going to talk extreme networks. Part of Will's global travels was to Paris to take part in that. We're going to talk OpenAI. I think there's a lot going on there with Mr. Altman. Dell, we just got back from Dell Tech World, IBM, and vast data in the AI operating system. So let's, without further ado, Mr. Townsend, let's jump in and have you talk about extreme networks and what you experienced.
Yeah, so Pat, I'm calling you Pat.
Wow. Okay.
Matt and Pat, they sound alike. So this week I was in Paris and I spent time with Extreme Networks. They hosted their Connect 2025 event. They alternate between the US and Europe, so they don't do separate events every year and across all the geographies. So this year was in Paris, and it was actually my first time to attend Connect. Got to spend time finally in person with the executive leadership team there. I've had many conversations with their CTO and Ed Meyercord, their CEO, over the years, but it was great to finally meet all of the executives face to face. They've added a lot of new executives as well. They have a new CMO, Chief Revenue Officer Norman Rice has been there for quite some time. He's served in different roles, but at a very high level, it was great to be there. Now, I kind of characterize Extreme Networks as sort of the challenger. If you're familiar with their origin, they're basically a product of complete acquisition. There's been very little organic roadmap development over the last decade or so, but that is changing. So, and it's been one of my criticisms of the company. Their top line revenue clocks in at about $1 billion, and when you compare that to Others that they're competing with, the Ciscos, the HPE Arubas, the Aristas, the Juniper Networks, they're considerably smaller. And one of the challenges, Matt and Paul, that they have faced is that they haven't had a center of gravity to really tie together all of their acquisitions. They play in the data center. They do switches. It's nothing super technical or compelling from a design perspective. But through their Avaya acquisition, they have a very interesting fabric solution that they just really need to get the word out, on its capability. It's from my perspective, it's quite compelling. They've been able to stretch it across the data center, to campus edge, and I'll be weighing in on a research note probably next week with some additional insights. But at a very high level, they announced something called Platform One in December of last year. And so at Connect 2025, they announced the general availability that's scheduled for third quarter. They've been in early preview with over 125 customers, which, if you think about it, that's a huge early preview for a company their size. But from my perspective, what Platform One does, it's a complete grounds up microservices architecture that is intended to reduce management friction, deliver observability from both an infrastructure perspective, and that also includes multi-vendor, as well as licensing. So they've actually integrated a licensing view into this tool. I think that's why they're calling it One, because it does all of that. And no surprise, there's a lot of integration of generative and agentic AI. They are going to eventually offer a version that customers can toggle off the modern AI features if companies want to do so. But they're very, very focused on ensuring the whole notion of human intervention in the loop. And from my perspective, finally, they have a kind of what I would call a center of gravity with something that's been organically engineered over the last 2 years to really allow them to compete on a better basis with the Ciscos and the Junipers and the other competitors that I mentioned. So I am actually they're going to be sending me a router, a switch, and a license so that I can actually test drive it. Okay. But my initial impressions are I think they're on the right track, and I think this can really sort of up-level their competitiveness. So, that's what I've got to say there. I don't know, Matt. Do you have any thoughts there about Extreme?
Let me ask you a question, because I remember Extreme's been around a long time, right? Yeah. Let me ask you a question, and I hope I don't want to be too controversial, but so when you look at kind of enterprise networking, right? It's been around for a long, long time, and you have some very established players in Cisco, in HPE. Dell's got to play to some degree, if you will. Yeah. But Cisco and HPE, and primarily, and some others. Do you see the enterprise networking space as so a market that can be disrupted? And do you see what Extreme is doing as disruptable to the enterprise networking space? Because I mean it kind of like sometimes how I use storage, and that's like, I've been using this stuff for 15 years. I've got muscle memory built around it and organization built around it. And what are your thoughts?
No, that's a great question. And when I sort of look at Platform One, it has the potential to be disruptive, but here's the challenge I think Extreme's going to be faced with. They're going against companies like Cisco and HPE that have a huge channel presence, that have huge checkbooks to be able to drive demand gen through the channel, through deal registration and other methods. Mm-hmm. So, and speaking with the executives, they feel like they've got a great tech stack, and in a lot of ways it's differentiated. And I'm going to try to go into more detail on that Moor Insights and Strategy research note that I'm working on. But I think their biggest challenge is going to be in the channel because, hey, man, I spent many, many years in the channel leading sales and marketing teams, and the channel is coin operated. Mm-hmm. And you might have the best technology out there. But if you don't have the right budget to put behind it to drive awareness and demand gen, it's going to be pretty challenging for them. Now, the executives did share with me that when they're able to get an at bat with a Cisco or an HPE incumbent, they've got a pretty solid track record. They mentioned that their sales engineers are equipped with these kits where they can go out and demonstrate all the capabilities of the portfolio, and that they have nearly 100% close rate when they can get in front of a customer. And they use the example of John Deere. So they were very late to sort of an RFQ and RFP. They were competing with Cisco and HPE and Juniper, and they were able to win that business based on their tech stack. So that's public information. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper in the technology stack, but that's a long way to answer your question. I think their biggest challenge is going to be how do they measure up in the channel, because at the end of the day, channel partners, they operate on margin. So
they sure do.
Yeah,
they sure do. And they don't like to introduce risk into deals.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I've got a question too, since networking is not my niche. When platform has offers a lot of flexibility and OpenAI's, is there any concern about adopting a single vendor's platform for locking it in? I mean, how much concern is there for that?
Paul, it's a great question. It's a great point. And, their approach again is to provide flexibility, right? And certainly the multi-vendor, management thing is going to be super important to them. And then, they also spoke to the fact that, and obviously they have a current management console, and I'm forgetting what they call it. XIQ, I believe, is what they call it. And certainly, they're gonna try to command a premium for platform one. They're gonna want to move customers over, but at the same time, they did mention, hey, we're gonna have a managed service provider offering for this as well, and then we will have a version where you can toggle off, sort of the AI stuff. But I'm probably not answering your question, but I think at the end of the day, and so many customers, from my perspective, are in proof of concepts with a lot of the advanced AI ops that are associated with generative and agentic. It's a hard question to answer. I think customers are going to take a measured approach to that and do the Pepsi challenge and see where the chips fall.
Yeah. On that note, speaking of Pepsi, let's go to no transition whatsoever. I tried. We're going to go Yogi Berra and Déjà vu all over again with AI. What do we got going on here, Yogi?
Yeah, always love it, Yogi Berra, and some of the wisdom that come out of that guy's mouth. This is one of them. Sam Altman, of course, runs OpenAI. He's got some big plans for some secret device that he's teaming up with one of the Jony Ives, one of the Apple guys, and it's supposed to be. But before we get into it, the couple of recent history should tell you maybe what's going to happen. There are a couple of devices called the Humane AI Pen and the Rabbit R1, and both of them were. Go ahead.
I was going to say they were both failures, right? I mean, they didn't do well.
They did not do well. They both wanted to create some type of AI-powered screenless device, as an alternative to smartphones. The AI pen was a little thing that you wore around like a piece of jewelry, and it was incorporated back in 2019, I think. Maybe 2020, but it did not last very long. People said it was basically a failure. It didn't do a lot of things it was supposed to do, and it ended up being shut down a year after it was released. It was bought by HP, but they stopped selling it and they deleted all of the customer data. And there was another one called Rabbit R1. This was like, instead of wearing it like a pen, there was a pocket thing that you carried around. There was supposed to be a controller for all your digital devices. It was started by a Taiwan executive, had plenty of money. It was, give you an idea, it was designed with a group of teenage engineers, and it used a large action model at the core technology, and that was supposed to learn basically how humans interacted with apps and how it would perform those actions on your behalf, like you want to order food or you want to book a ride. I mean, it's like agentic models now. It had voice commands and that type of thing, but it shut down. It shut down in February, I believe. So, and it was acquired by HP, but what they wanted was the team and the IP. They did not want the device itself. So, now what's going on is that there was supposedly a conversation leaked to the Wall Street Journal. Sam Altman, who's CEO of OpenAI, previewed a secret hardware project to the OpenAI staff. And the goal was to ship 100 million of these AI companion devices immediately, basically. It projected like $1 trillion to be added in company value. And I mean, that's still up in the air. It hasn't been released. It's going to be he said it's going to be a third core device. We've got laptops and phones, and now we're going to have whatever this mysterious OpenAI device is going to be. Supposed to be released coming up in next year, 2026. It's going to have its own hardware. It'll have some type of interaction with ChatGPT. It won't be limited by phones or laptops or anything. So OpenAI wants to have its own user experience, rather relying on Apple or Google or something like that. So it'll be interesting. OpenAI is saying they're going to lose at least about $45 billion before they turn profitable in 2029. So if this doesn't work out, it's going to add a lot of money to it. So
yeah,
and so that's what's going on with OpenAI. I think most people are expecting it to fail. And I mean, they're trying to scale hardware against Microsoft and Google and Apple, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be a big cash flow, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding, because I caught the article, Paul, Johnny Ive, who was the industrial design guru for Apple, is at OpenAI now, right? And designing this. So maybe if it's like, Apple-esque, it can be, it can be successful. What do you think, Matt? I mean,
I think we have a constellation of devices. We've got iPhones, we've got iPads, we've got Apple Watches, or whatever, Google Watches, Google, and I think to some degree there is a bit of fatigue when it comes to the number of things we carry around with us or on us to quote unquote improve our lives. I think you're better to try and enhance the experience of what we're already carrying than to try and create yet another device. And I don't know how they do that. I mean, Apple is hurting in terms of AI, kind of, making the AI game work for them, especially on the iPhone. I mean, Siri has just been an experience in failure to me. I mean, it's funny because it was so out front and it was ahead of its time when it was released, but it's kind of quickly fallen behind. I have to think there's ways to work with these device providers and enhance the experience that way. unless it's an absolutely killer app, quote unquote killer app that, is requiring a new device, but I don't see a new iPod or iPhone kind of being introduced into the market.
No, I don't either.
No, I think, they talk about this being the third device. I think my way of thinking, I think the third device won't happen until we've got, internal implants.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
and I'm not ready for that yet.
No, I'm not either.
No.
This is the thing, right? Too, and it's like the world is full of toys, and our colleague Anshul always has new toys he's playing with, and every toy is going to be the breakthrough, right? It's the VR glasses, it's the headsets, right? It's the glasses, everything is going to be, and nothing is breaking through. I mean, how much did Apple put into their VR headsets, right?
That was a huge failure too, right? I mean, yeah.
How much do you hear about them anymore, right? And they were, Google had its version. It's like, I really struggle with this. We mean it this time. It's going to change your life so dramatically. You have to go get it, and everyone's going to buy into it. I'm not there.
Yeah.
Call me a cynic, but
a realist.
A realist. I like to look at it that way. So
transitioning
from Déjà vu, I am just not. My head's not there today with the transition.
Sorry, you can do the transitions.
I'm not a creative guy to start with. So Dell Tech World. Speaking of Déjà vu all over again, Dell Tech World. That's a good one. 2025 took place, and strangely enough, AI was front and center. Who would have thunk that we'd be talking about AI in 2025 and the AI factory? So a lot of focus was on AI factory, Dell's AI factory with NVIDIA. And it makes sense, right? Because it's still where enterprises are trying to figure out kind of where they go, how they go, and what they do. Makes perfect sense. But there was a lot more talked about that I don't think got enough attention. And I have private cloud and automation as the headline, but there's more to it. First and foremost, there was an update that I think 3,000 enterprise customers have adopted Dell's AI factory, kind of in an operational sense. And Dell itself is customer zero. And Jeff Clark, I think Michael Dell did as well, and Jeff Clark talked a lot about how Dell's adoption of AI has driven kind of innovation, efficiency, all of those buzzwords, but they quantified it more, which I thought was good, right? They put meat behind the actual buzzwords. And when you see a company like Dell and you think, well, it's a tech company, but it's still a business, and you look at how they are deploying AI to drive efficiencies across supply chain, across sales, across marketing, across engineering and design and manufacturing. It's absolutely incredible, because you can take that and draw a parallel to virtually any enterprise that's in the market, that is trying to, design, build, and sell a product into market, whether it's shoes, technology, or something else, or dishwashers. But beyond that, I think some of the stuff that kind of flew under the radar and maybe only came out in some of the roundtables was, one of them was how big and how effective Dell's services group is. So Dell is a company of about 120 to 130 employees. Dell Services is 65,000 people strong. Now, of that, I think about 40,000 are direct Dell Services, professional services folks, and about 20,000 or so are contractors that go out and do break fix kind of things. But these are the folks that when you say, hey, Dell, I want to buy your AI factory and stand it up, these are the folks that go out and deploy it for you, make it work for you. And they're the folks you call when something goes wrong as an enterprise. They also do, private cloud installation or hybrid cloud installation, storage optimization kind of, or storage installation and optimization work. They do a lot. And in a world where it's increasingly difficult to differentiate your AI factory from your competitor's AI factory, because we're all kind of NVIDIA resellers, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get to that point, these are the things that help you differentiate from the other vendors, right? Really great story. And one last thing before I'll let you guys jump in is there was not, I don't think, enough attention given to what Dell is calling private AI or private cloud, but it's really hybrid cloud. If you think about VxRail, something the company developed with VMware, which was effectively building a virtualization appliance, think about being able to do that for VMware, for Nutanix, for Red Hat, for your own, and being able to have a cluster of Dell infrastructure out there and deploying all of these solutions out there and managing them all from one single control plane through what Dell is calling its automation platform. This is an area where I think before you even get to AI, you have to address, because if you don't modernize your infrastructure, AI is never going to work for you.
Yeah.
Dell's done a lot of work here, and they don't get nearly enough attention. And quite frankly, I don't think they give nearly enough attention to what they're doing to kind of ease this transition into the multi-hypervisor, multi-hybrid cloud kind of enterprise. I'll shut up there. Thought it was really cool. Would love to hear your 2 cents if you guys have any.
Yeah. Well, I know my second topic. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Okay. I was actually going to talk about something different, but since you raised the subject up, I wrote a white paper for Dell a while back on the AI factory. And the point of what I'm saying is that I got to interview one of Dell's customers over in the UK. Major AI factory customer. It was the Institute for AI and Medicine at the Essen University Hospital in Germany. And I got to talk to Dr. Moon, and he's a chief technical officer and lead data scientist for that organization. And they've built an AI platform that's based on, they've got like $1.9 billion, I mean, not dollars, records, health records ingested into the system. They've got a data lakehouse that consolidates inputs from like 200 different clinical systems. But it's really a neat system for the doctors. It's got a chat bot that's built on open source LLMs. They've got RAG built into it. They've got all the AI goodies. Got a flexible framework that minimizes, the integration. Professional services group, they loved them. They handle all the hardware, software maintenance. And it frees this group from working on service problems where they actually can concentrate on algorithms and applications. And they've got a future project coming up. And this is the last point. It's a joint Dell UK initiative, and it's research on human-machine interaction. And they're going to build basically a digital human, so that doctors and students and stuff can work on this digital human. But overall, I mean, they love the system. They love Dell AI Factory, and they love the professional services support.
Yeah, that's what makes it all work, right? Yeah, it's so cool to see kind of what the end result looks like of these interactions. Sorry, well, I didn't mean to step on you. I knew you wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to say that, and I can say this as a former Dell employee, that, I think the company, it tends to over-rotate on talking about its compute and storage, because that's the bread and butter. But yeah, I think you make an excellent point, because as I've gotten to spend more time with Dell this year and learn about the investment it's making in its professional services, I mean, this is really the tip of the spear. And your comment is interesting about, needing the automation to make this all work. I mean, in a way, it sort of begets one another, right? So you need the automation to make this all work, but modern AI brings with it, high degrees of automation as well, right? Yeah. So, and that's a good segue to my.
Oh, there you go, man.
Where I want to talk about what Dell discussed from an AI networking perspective.
Woo, man, what a transition.
Woo, man, I'm bringing it. Like even with a cold and coming off a 10-day trip, man, I'm bringing it. So I had to kind of, I got pre-briefed and, I saw everything sort of unfold from afar across the pond. But Dell did announce a number of different things, a new switch. They talked about what they're doing with pluggable optics, which are very important from an interconnect perspective. They talked about smart fabrics. I mean, fabrics are sexy again, to quote Justin Timberlake. I was just talking about fabrics with Extreme Networks and Dell's focused on that. What they're doing is they're stretching their Sonic, relationship. They've done, they've had a Sonic Enterprise distro for quite some time. And so they're investing in leveraging that footprint with smart fabrics. But from my perspective, I think Dell is missing a huge opportunity. And Matt, you and I have sort of sidebarred about this for years, right? I sort of believe that Dell sort of takes a second kind of citizen approach when it comes to prioritizing what they do with the actual hardware from a networking perspective relative to Cisco and HPE Aruba. And let me explain why I'm making that point. 4 years ago, Aruba launched a top-of-rack switch integrating AMD Pensando, the CX10000. And what's really, from my perspective, compelling about integrating a DPU into a top-of-rack switch is that you can do some pretty unique things embedding security and connectivity services directly into the fabric, right? And Cisco earlier this year announced a line of smart switches. What I like about Cisco's approach is that they're taking Cisco Silicon One, which has been really at the top of their infrastructure stack. They're moving that down the stack, and they're combining that with AMD Pensando to do some really interesting things and differentiate themselves. So, when I got pre-briefed on the Dell switch, hey, it's great. Yeah, you're working with NVIDIA. Yeah, you're driving port, performance and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's Broadcom silicon, right? And so, my only piece of advice for Dell is, hey, I think Michael and Jeff, it might behoove you to invest a little more engineering resources into your power switch lineup and do something that's differentiated so that you can compete with the likes of, what Cisco and HPE Aruba are doing from a hardware innovation perspective. So I think it's a fair statement, but Matt, I know you're close to this as well. What's your take? Am I totally off base here?
Yeah, no, I don't think you are. It's it's AI is about how fast you can harness, move, and train your data, right? Or use your data. I shouldn't say train, but use your data, right? Move is a huge part of that. And, Dell kind of works from a position of they're in a tougher position because, to what you said, you've got Cisco, which has obviously been kind of the king of moving data forever, right? You've got HPE that has built up its own portfolio over the years. While Dell is, I don't want to call them a newcomer. They're kind of in a tougher position. But I at least see them trying to make the moves to play more competitively in that space, right? But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, it's funny because when I talk to customers, from my perspective, it's always about compute, how you can crunch data and how you can store data, right? Because it's about compute and storage and compute and storage. Yeah. And even on the moving data, I always think about kind of moving at the system level between a GPU and storage or memory and GPU or memory and CPU. Yeah. And I focus far less. I always say, networking is plumbing to me.
Yeah. Hey, how dare you say that
Well,
about my coverage.
it's critical, right?
It is.
There's nothing worse than a toilet that stops up in the middle of the night. And there's nothing worse than those systems being starved because you can't get data moved across at a fast enough rate.
Yeah.
So number one, I like to see that Dell is kind of recognizing and putting a focus on it.
Yeah.
Product always lags, kind of, it's like the solution always lags the kind of recognition. I feel like there is a fairly decent recognition on all of this, but maybe I'm off. I don't know.
No. I mean, and I think, to your point, I mean, they're doing the right things. I mean, they're embracing Spectrum X. They're working with NVIDIA. Again, the smart fabrics and the pluggable optical, type stuff that they're doing is all great. And by the way, also, they're doing a hell of a job with Edge as well, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm probably nitpicking a little bit here,
No.
but yeah.
I don't think you are at all. It's an absolute fair call, and kind of what's because it puts them at a competitive disadvantage. If there is a competitive disadvantage, it is in the networking, right, space.
Yeah.
And part of it is because they are so strong in compute and storage. I think there's just an expectation that you're going to see that across all three legs of the stool, if you will. So no, I think it's a completely fair criticism, Paul. I didn't know if you were going to add anything. I didn't mean to step on you.
No,
Yeah. So
cool.
All right, let's move on because we've just spent 45 minutes talking about Dell. Let's move on to another fun friend of ours, IBM, and access pricing plan. That does not look like a Paul headline because it's not creative or interesting. What's going on, Paul?
I did it in honor of pricing. I mean, I normally think pricing is so boring to talk about, but this one is IBM's new pricing plan for access to the quantum computers. It's pretty interesting. Before they introduced the new pricing plan, they had basically four different plans that you could. They had an open plan. They gave you like 10 minutes a month to play around with. It's free, and you can do a lot with 10 minutes on a quantum computer. And then the next part was the pay-as-you-go plan, and the pay-as-you-go plan ran about $96 a minute, but there was no upfront commitment, so you could, all you could eat for $96 a minute.
That sounds like MCI with their phone plans back in the day. Sorry.
Yeah. And then they've got a premium plan that was around $48 per minute, but that required a pretty hefty upfront and recurring spend for the access to that. Then they have a quantum computer on your premises, but that's kind of like in a different category. So what they did was the open plan didn't give researchers enough time at all. I mean, it's kind of playing around doing tests and stuff like that. The pay-as-you-go was pretty expensive, and in terms of cost per minute, was $96, and that can accumulate. When you start running a lot of optimization and stuff like that. And then the premium plan is about $48 a minute. So what they did, they took between the pay-as-you-go plan at 96 and the premium plan at 48, with a lot of heavy upfront commitment. They put in a new plan in there called the Flex plan, and the Flex plan is now priced at like $72 a minute. And there's a minimum buy-in of 30,000, so you don't have like 250,000 in face to it. Mm-hmm. And they get 400 premium minutes a month on a 400 premium minutes period, and they can use those minutes over a 12-month period. With 400 minutes, you can do a lot of work. Not only that, but they get access to the premium platform. They get access to the premium software tools, and premium support. So it's really a good plan. And I think you're going to see a lot of people move from the pay-as-you-go up into the flex plan, because it makes a lot of sense. That's the way they should have done it to begin with. The problem is that there's no not really a problem, but there's no hard cap on usage for the flex plan. So you start getting, up to a point, it'd probably be better off to be switched to the premium plan. But you get everything, all the premium services. Only if you have to pay $30,000 up front and $40 a compute minute. It's a bargain. I mean, they were really smart about this, strategic place where they put it. So I would like to see them do a couple of things. I would like to see them maybe offer some one-time coupons for the people that were in the pay-as-you-go plan or the free plan. Maybe 30 minutes or 50 minutes of time in the flex plan or something like that. I think they could have done that. And this is by the way, the new flex plan is use it or lose it. So anyway, it's a really good plan. They've got 5 plans now. They've got the free plan, the pay-as-you-go plan, the new flex plan, the premium plan, and dedicated.
So how does that? So I'm sorry if I didn't catch it earlier. When you say $46 a minute is a bargain, I realize I need to charge more for my services.
Yeah, that's computer time. You can do a lot with like I said, you can do a lot with 10 free minutes.
Well, luckily, Quantum can solve things so quickly. Sorry for my dog in the background there. Can you talk, maybe you mentioned this, can you talk to what we're seeing from other services out there?
Each company's got their own different one. It's usually got something that wheels around, cost per minute and commitment that you're going to pay.
So would you say IBM's is very competitive with what you see?
Yeah, this is definitely competitive, especially IBM, So,
wow.
Great machines. They've got,
and
you can't go wrong with IBM.
Yeah, and I guess the companies, organizations that are experimenting with quantum, I mean, it's a big investment to start with. So I mean, I guess we have to keep everything in perspective. I'm just trying to think of what I can possibly offer from Matt Kimball that makes 46 bucks a minute.
This plan is good for startups, good for academia with grants and for courses and stuff like that, because they need hands-on experience and time without a long contract, and they need to be able to buy chunks of time. So enterprise or public companies, good for them. They usually have got like a $30,000 to $100,000 budget for exploration. It's good for teams that are running like proof of concepts or pilot optimizations and stuff like that. You're in the pay-as-you-go plan. You're gonna run up the cost really fast. So.
Well, you and I got to figure out how we're gonna scrape together our dollars for that quantum experiment we were talking about.
Or even build a product we can sell for $72 a minute. This is the best of both worlds. It gives them freedom of on-demand usage, plus a lower unit cost. So IBM did a good job with it. Like I say, I'm not usually excited about pricing, but I am this one.
Cool.
IBM's been on the forefront of quantum, so it's good to see them kind of taking the lead on how it gets consumed as well. So
can we say they're democratizing the access to
quantum? Oh, I love that.
We had that. Remember, we had that debate just the other day internally on the use of democratizing AI.
Yeah, I think we're wasting our time having that conversation internally.
We are.
That's just the opposite of constipation. So.
All right, last topic before we go into what we're doing for the Memorial Day weekend. Vast data in the AIOS, or the AI operating system, or the artificial intelligence operating system if you aren't following at home clearly. So what the heck is going on here, right? So Vast over the years has put together a whole bunch of I don't want to call them discrete, but tools to help with the data-rich environment, right? So they have this thing called DATSI, or DAYS, which is disaggregated share everything architecture that allows you to scale compute and storage independently. And the way they do it and some of the technology they put behind it effectively allows you to scale the data side almost exponentially. Really cool story. They've built on that over time, a data store, a data space, data store. And if you think about an operating system, like you get your file system indexing, message buses, queues to help help how applications store, access, and work with data. They've built all the tools that effectively build that for AI or analytics or any kind of data play. And here's the really cool thing they've done. If they packaged all this together, they built in some tools that help you do inferencing and agentic AI. So real-time RAG, inferencing, and agentic AI very easily. They've repackaged this and they've launched it as what they call the AI OS. And effectively, it's this. And I'm going to go quick because we're already running up against a hard stop. Effectively, it's this. You as an enterprise, you can go grab dozens of tools, try and integrate them together. You can go and try and harness all of your data, and then you can build agent or agentic frameworks that help kind of create and manage and orchestrate and observe your agent landscape. And you can do that, and it can take you months to do that, and you can continually tune it, and you can screw up, and you can never quite get it right. Or you can go to a Vast and say, just give me what you got, and I'm going to install it, and it does all this for me. That's what they're trying to achieve, and they do it through partnerships. And they do it tightly integrated with NVIDIA, and it's like AIQ blueprints for AI. That's what Vast is proposing out to the enterprise. If you're a cloud, if you're a CoreWeave or one of these big, GPU cloud providers, you're going to go do your own thing. But if you are an enterprise customer that's trying to get from day one to time to first token as quickly as possible, Vast is Vast or a Vast-like solution is what you're trying to, what you want to do. Really great technology, great story. I love the way they're positioning it. Now, implementing is always different than kind of the vision, right? And I don't have my AI lab built up yet, so I can't go kind of do a hands-on evaluation. But this is kind of where the AI landscape needs to go to if we want to go from a few really big customers doing it to everybody doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think even if you don't, even if you look and you go, well, they could do this better, they could do that better. This is really the blueprint for AI moving forward, I think.
Hey, Matt, I mean, doesn't NVIDIA have designs on doing that with their, what do they call it? Their enterprise
AI.
Enterprise AI.
It would sit on top of what Vast is doing. So if you think about Vast, right, the typical enterprise has literally a couple of hundred data stores sitting around it, right? They have SQL databases from all kinds of companies, Oracle, Microsoft, even some old Sybase stuff from decades ago. Mm-hmm. They have NoSQL data environments. They have data lakes. They have file stores that have pictures and videos and audio. They have all of these different data repositories and all of these different data types sitting out there. Mm-hmm. Going out, and the first step to AI is going out and getting all of that data
organized, right?
Organized and universally available to the frameworks I'm going to use to go make use of them, right? Uh-huh. So it's getting the data, it's putting a good meta or global namespace that does metadata tagging so that I can quickly access all of this data very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I can build up kind of indexes related to common searches. It's doing that first, and that's where VAST absolutely shines. And then it's making it available to the NVIDIAs or the Metas or the Lang chains or the, insert or your AI framework here. But they do that very low level kind of work. And that's what an operating system is, right?
Yeah.
That makes all of these enterprise AI solutions actually work properly. They do all the low level kind of functionality to make the enterprise AI work more seamlessly and functionally. And by the way, they're going to develop their own agents, so you can easily deploy those as well. So, and if you think about it, right? So I think it was Jensen Huang said, the NVIDIA CEO said, he sees a day where I think it's NVIDIA is going to have 100 million agents running across NVIDIA. And that's for 20,000 employees, right? So think about what that means, right? How many agents per employee? How do you manage that? How do you orchestrate that? How do you make sure that your underlying data kind of framework is able to support, all of this from a data movement, data governance perspective, so on and so forth? That's what VAST is trying to help with to make all of these agentic plays work. I know Paul has thoughts because he's given me a look.
I agree with you. I mean, we're just now coming into the agentic era, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of demand on scale and performance and data access patterns, and so they're going to have. I mean, they're going to have to evolve to meet that. So.
Yeah, I think in a world where every analyst and every press person is writing about agentic AI and how beautiful it is, we're so far over where the actual real life adoption of AI is. We're so far out in front of it, and we forget that enterprises are still trying to figure out kind of like, where do we start, right? What's step one? And I actually think like VAST, what they're doing with their AIOS, in many ways, that is step one, right? And it's what you build from there. Anyway, I know we have a hard stop.
It's a good icebreaker. You meet somebody new, you say, "So, how many agents do you have?" Oh.
That's the new bragging rights.
Yeah.
The enterprise bragging rights. Anyway, we talked about a lot of talk on Dell. I love the IBM stuff around kind of what they're doing on quantum. Love the networking discussions around Extreme. And it's kind of cool and appropriate that we kind of end with VAST and what they're doing in AI. Before we get going, I know you're both going to you got a lot going on in your respective swim lanes. Do you want to talk really quickly in the next minute about what you're doing or where you're going to be over the next couple of weeks? Paul, you want to go first?
So I'm gonna be right here. We've got issues going on, and I've mainly got a pretty heavy documentation workload in front of me. There's some interesting things coming up for a couple different clients and some historical stuff, and so I gotta finish that up.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We got going on well.
Yeah. Next week I head back on the road. I'm spending time with Palo Alto Networks and IBM at IBM Cyber Range in Cambridge. That's my first visit, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to drop down to New York City, spend time with Cisco, and they've got a CX event that they're holding for a group of analysts. And boy, month of June, Zscaler, Zenith Live, HPE Discover, Cisco Live in San Diego, and then I get a much needed break for a few weeks. So, how about you? Where are you headed, Matt?
I'm going to be up at Broadcom's event in Cambridge as well, right by you next week and the week after, and then I'll be at Cisco Live with you in San Diego, an AMD event, Pure Storage's Accelerate event, HPE Discover, and a couple of AWS events as well. So lots going on. We're going to be on the road and look for our updates. Before we get going or we leave, one last reminder: do not take anything we said as financial advice. If you do, you're crazy. And if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. If you don't, get on Twitter and tell everybody what a fool Will Townsend is. Thanks, guys. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. You too, Paul.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.